see. Perfect. Good. Well, we are live, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on Friday, October 24th in our fifth session of the Flux Explorers program. Very happy to be joined by one of the explorers who's with us today, Chris. He's been doing an amazing job, not only accessing the podcast, the different episodes that we've been sharing in the Flux series, but then in turn, sharing his responses, his learnings through video format. Chris, for people who don't know you, could you just give us a quick intro about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So I am. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
So I am a platform SRE engineer. I kind of do a lot of stuff under that umbrella. I've been in the space for about 5 years now. Before that, I was retail and commercial. But yeah, in the last 3-4 weeks, I've been working on a big migration from Argo CD to Flux. So this has been a really good timing for me.
Well, that is very good. And a couple of things I want to unpack there. In terms of your first encounters with open source projects in general, can you walk me through that? When did you first hear about CNCF, Kubernetes, things of this nature?
So I started in IT 2020, and we were working with VMware with them. And then VMware released their flavor of Kubernetes, which was Tanzu. And the company were looking for somebody to kind of get involved, maybe try out this new technology. And yeah, that was it. I was introduced to Kubernetes. I was building it the hard way. It took a long, long time. I do not miss them days at all. And that was kind of my first experience of Kubernetes. And then from there, it's just been a ongoing love-hate relationship, to be honest.
I think a lot of people would agree with that. I like what you're
Yeah.
saying, though, that for people to understand that it's not something you're going to learn in a week, or probably not even in a month, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're stupid. Just these things take time. In your experience, what resources have been most helpful? Has it been blogs? Has it been tutorials? Has it been books? What's been best for you?
And for me, it's been blogs and videos of people actually building it. So like the walkthroughs where you build a home lab or you build a cluster on something like Rancher, and actually just implement it, and then trying to troubleshoot it yourself rather than just searching for the answer straight away. That's kind of been the best way I've learned it. I mean, I'm definitely still learning it 100%. Like I was playing with resource sets the other day, and that in itself was a massive learning curve.
Okay. But I think the point is here is that, yeah, continuous learning, don't expect it to be a one-stop sort of endeavor, that this is going to be an ongoing process for people out there. And
100%.
I guess for folks out there too that haven't worked yet as an SRE, for people that might not be familiar with that, what are the kind of things you do in your day-to-day?
So yeah, my SRE role kind of revolves around ensuring that the platform remains up and stable and acting proactively instead of reactively to potential outages and things that can cause trouble. One of the big ones, especially when working with Kubernetes, is keep an eye on all the metrics for memory. Try to preempt them exhaustive memory nodes and things like that, and jump on them before they actually take down production, which happens.
It definitely does. I would also like to mention our other guest has joined us, Nick Eberts, who's live in Georgia, where the next KubeCon is going to be happening very, very soon. We'll be out there. I think Nick and I are also coordination on teeters. This is from a local baseball team where my parents live, the Vallejo Seaweed. So this wasn't planned, by the way.
No,
I gave
I
Nick
feel
one of
left
these
out.
shirts the last time we. Oh, don't worry. We got to get you one too, Chris. Don't worry. Next time in the UK, I'll definitely bring one. But Nick, for folks who don't know you, can you introduce yourself really quickly?
Wait, so what's this about? Are we not trying out for a minor league baseball team over a video chat?
Well, soon, that's part 2 of this webinar.
Okay, cool. Hey, everybody. I'm Nick Eberts. I'm a product manager at Google. I work on the GKE team, specifically on multi-cluster tools. And apologize for being outside. I got chased out of my house by everyone I live with. So this is the modern world that we live in.
Not the first time, not the last. Welcome, Nick.
Nope.
Now I want to turn it back over to Chris. Chris, so for people out there that are also not familiar with the subject of making videos, having a public appearance, having a public profile, for some people can be very uncomfortable. I can talk a little bit about my experience later on, but we'll save that for later. And Nick can speak about his too, whether it's giving talks, whether it's being involved in events. For some people, it can be, terrifying, imposter syndrome, not wanting to be called out. Can you walk us through your journey? How did you decide, hey, this is something I'm going to do? What were the first initial steps that you took? And what recommendations would you have for people that are out there thinking about doing this?
For sure. So the whole reason I kind of wanted to start doing it is because I actually wanted to present. I remember going to my first, it was a Google Cloud event that was going on at London Excel, and it was awesome. I thought it was amazing. They had all these people up there presenting, showcasing stuff that it is very, very clever, but what they're showing is not overly complex on the surface to what they showcase. But the real skill was how they shared the knowledge and presented it in a way that everybody could understand. I was like, that's really cool. I would love to do that, especially with something like Kubernetes and some other open source tools. But of course, I'm terrified of speaking in public. I've never been a particularly confident person in public, especially when they're all sat there looking at me. I can't do that thing where you picture them with potatoes on their heads to make me calm down. So I thought, YouTube is one way. So I started doing videos, vlogging, talking to a camera, and just, it took a long time to slowly build up some confidence. I am still well working towards it. I'm miles away from being where I want to be. But I think the thing that has helped me the most is trying to be consistent, which in itself has been its own challenge, because you got a lot out there saying that you need all this stuff, you need all this gear, you need cameras and microphones and lighting, when you can spend 2 to 3 months trying to prepare that stuff, and then in that time you haven't posted a single thing. So once I reined back that kind of I must be perfect mindset, I started just posting maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. I've got something like 50 videos now, which is not bad for me, because I am a bit of a procrastinator. But it made it a lot easier once I made it was ready. I click one button now and I'm ready to record. And yeah, I think for anyone wanting to do it, the best thing would be, don't try and copy what anybody else is doing. And nobody's perfect when they first start it. I know I looked at a lot of people who are big time influencers and content creators, and I'm like, why do I not get the same traction? It's like, well, they've been doing it for nearly 5 or 10 years. I've been doing it for 5 or 10 minutes. And I think it's just going for it and trying your best. And each time it's going to be a better iteration than your last attempt. So
I think that's good. I think, and like you said, if you look at your favorite content creators out there, if you look at their first videos, how those compare to the ones they're doing now, there's probably a difference in terms of quality, in terms of setup, as you mentioned. Don't talk yourself out of it just because you don't have access to 10,000 pounds, euros, or dollars to spend on gear. You can do it with your phone. There are lots of different things that you can do. In terms of deciding what kind of content you were going to make, about the problems that you were going to show being solved, what is the objective that you have? What pain points are you trying to help people to solve with your content?
So for me, it was more because I would still class myself as new, as I sit alongside engineers who have been doing it for 10 or 15 years, and I've been doing it for 4. If it's a problem for me, then I imagine it's a problem for somebody else. So I feel like I can share, recently I was working on Flux providers, setting up Flux providers. And you need to not only define a provider, but also a secret. But the documentation, they're a little bit separated. So I could share that, and then hopefully that would solve a problem for somebody else. And that's kind of the mindset I take, that if it was something I learned, and I found, well, this wasn't straightforward, I could make somebody else's life a little bit easier that might have the same problem. For sure.
Well said. And yeah, like you said, if it's affecting you, there are enough engineers out there that's going to be affecting somebody else. And I think also for people too is that, the content that you create, is it going to, change the world overnight or things like that? Probably not. But I think there's also, what I want to ask you, in the process of creating these videos, how do you find that helps you with your own knowledge in the sense that if you have to share it with somebody else, how does it, to what extent does it help you perhaps go deeper and understand it better?
Oh yeah, so it can be a sense of there's something I learned. I thought this was how it's supposed to be, but I find myself sense checking what it is before I start sharing it with the world, in case, well, maybe I've understood that concept incorrectly, or maybe what I've done is I've actually crowbarred it in, which is not the right way of doing it, and there is another way, but I've at least got that first clue to lead me down the trail. And it's definitely helped me in terms of like solidifying my kind of like technical knowledge and everything that I've been learning, because I'm doing it, but then I'm also reiterating it and sharing it. So it's really embedding it in there, and it's only really helped me in terms of you know, my career and my knowledge, really, to be honest.
Makes sense. And now that you said that you're in the process at work of going through a migration from Argo to Flux, has that been something that you've been researching, looking at walkthroughs, articles, things of that nature?
So I have been a lot on the documentation for Flux, and there's been a few walkthroughs, but not many. So I actually did the entire migration on my home lab first before doing it on the company one. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I find Flux actually has a lot of solutions that sometimes are not always at the surface. So like the resource sets, for example, not that was not on the surface documentation. That was buried in there, but it's actually a brilliant solution for iterating over, you know, dozens of applications, and it's just got some really clever stuff. And I've learned a lot about Flux, that's for sure.
Great. With that in mind, I'd like to bring Nick on because Nick has his Flux journey that he'll be able to share with us. And Chris, you can chime in at any point in time if you have questions that you'd like to ask him. Nick, tell us about, you know, how you first heard about Flux. Last week we heard from Lee Kapili, who's been working with Flux actually for about 10 years since its inception. But Nick, tell us about your story. How'd you get connected to it? And perhaps anything you want to tell us about Stefan Prodan, your interactions with him, I believe it was 2018, 2019. Go for it.
Yeah, Stefan and I go back a bit. So I think the first time that Flux sort of hit my radar was via Flagger, actually. So if you're familiar, Flagger is like their application, like graduated release CRD. I think Stefan pushed that out in 2018. I saw it, and then like Chris was talking about it, immediately like got on the Git page and like built this whole environment to use Flux just so I could test Flagger. And so I demoed, and then I set it all up. I was working for Microsoft at the time, and I was like, this is pretty rad. You know what I mean? If you haven't used Flagger, it's pretty neat. You essentially define a rollout, and then whenever you make a version change in the image that the application is looking at, it automatically does this release, and it does fancy things. It can call out and check and validate the actual deployment, and then step it into completion. So at the time, I mean, in 2018, I was pretty pumped for that. And I remember giving that demo to the Deis. Like, so Microsoft acquired Deis right around that time, and they had come over, and I was like demoing this to them. I was like, this is so cool. It passed Ralph Squalache's like muster test, so I knew this was like pretty neat. Anyway, so then I think I ended up reaching out to Stefan, and we hooked up at KubeCon. Now you're gonna check me on timelines here, and maybe because I'm an old, like they won't align, but I think it was KubeCon San Diego where we were at a dinner together and we were talking about it. But like, so that was my first sort of foray into GitOps. That, and then when I finally made it over to Google, I also have local friends here in Atlanta that were they call them the Riot Team at Chick-fil-A. They were the ones who were building like distributed Kubernetes and all the stores. And they were actually tire kicking Flux pretty hard from the get-go before they decided to build their own thing. They were working with Alexis. So I kind of had like familiarity with that ecosystem just through friends that were local. But that's when I kind of realized, it's like Kubernetes is pretty powerful. Having everything sort of composable and configuration is really neat. But God, we need some version control. We need to prevent people from getting in there and prod and like fat fingering and edit and taking down everybody. So the reversion or the drift prevention was pretty sweet. So that's kind of like how I started getting into GitOps and Argo CD. Of course, we had a tool at Google. I had intimate knowledge with that. But like the strength, I would say, like if I look at the sort of landscape of these GitOps tools, I actually, like if it were me and I were the CEO or the CTO of a company and I were making decisions on tools, which maybe the CEO and CTO shouldn't, but whatever. If I was that decision maker, I would totally pick a distributed data plane, right? I like the idea of having the sync agents point directly at like the completely wet source and driving towards that state. I think once you put something in between that, you're sort of maybe moving away from a lot of the value that GitOps was providing to begin with. I say that fully acknowledging that all that means is that you're forcing all of the creation of that wet repo into some pipeline somewhere that happens before it starts reconciling. So there's that work still has to happen somewhere. I just don't think it needs to happen in between the cluster and the source of the desired state.
Got it. And with that in mind too, the technical challenges being there, in terms of those technical challenges being best explained, what we're speaking about with Chris is, how do you connect with an audience to be able to show them what's going on under the hood, how to make it easier for them to anticipate the problems that they're going to be having. In your case, Nick, what works best? Are you a fan of videos, sticking to official documentation? What works best for you?
So as you can see, I'm awful at public speaking. So what works and yet I find myself in these situations all the time. So I think what's always worked for me is just to make sure, pardon my language, but I know my shit. Like if I know what I'm talking about, if I feel confident that I know enough, not overconfident, like arrogant, but just like, your stuff, then it's easier, I think, to get up in front of people and tell a story. But I say that, and I am the absolute worst at this. I've never scripted a talk. I can't. My brain just doesn't work that way. I have to I'm pretty much winging it every time, even if I have slides. Like it's just, and sometimes it works out and sometimes I crash and burn. I think over time I've accepted that I am going to crash and burn. And I usually apologize ahead of any talk that I give that it could be today. So like right now, am I crashing and burning, Bart?
No, not at all. Because you're being honest and transparent and
Yeah.
about crashing and burning, which is good. But I hear you on that. I hear you on that. And I think that, everyone has a different style when it comes to these things. And some people want to have things ultra prepared and others will want to do things a little bit more off the cuff. But what I think here the point is that, Chris has made it really easy for us in the Flux Explorers program because he's been very consistent about creating videos about the podcasts that he's checked out and what he's learned and encouraging others to do the same in a very short and sweet fashion. I think there's a really strong lesson in the content that Chris has been creating in the Flux Explorers program, which is you don't need to make things longer than they need to be. Get to the point as quickly as possible. People are very busy. Time is of the essence, even more so nowadays. Without getting too much into age checking, I turned 40 this week, but attention spans. Thank you. I think attention spans, are just getting shorter and shorter, and so we really have to empathize with that. When people are scrolling, why are they going to care? Why are they going to take the time to listen? And whether it's an in-person talk or a video, is really empathizing with people. Make it super simple for them to understand what it is that you're going to be sharing with them. Tell them what you're going to say, then you say it, and then you tell them again. And don't leave any room for doubts there. So I think what we're trying to go for here is that while people may have different styles, some people may prefer to write, some people may prefer to do a presentation where they don't appear on camera, but it's just their voice narrating it. Whatever you're most comfortable with is one thing, but being very respectful of people's time and those attention economics, I think is essential no matter how you do it. So I really want to emphasize that. And like I said, Chris makes it really easy for us because he's done a fantastic job of doing that. Chris, I'd like to turn it back over to you. Have you been surprised by any content that you've created that you thought would get better results than it did, or perhaps the opposite?
Yes, actually. Ironically, I posted something yesterday, just for a giggle, and I've probably got about 200 connections from it, and nearly like a couple of thousand impressions. But all I did was post that I have deployed the public dashboards on Grafana on my home lab and put a screenshot of it. and it has had huge interaction, which I wasn't expecting because I didn't put a lot of thought and effort into that one. Whereas maybe some of my previous ones, like when I've done the videos for the Flux, I put a bit more thought and effort, and it's had less sort of like impressions and feedback. So yeah, that one really caught me off guard yesterday. I've had people comment me asking for the JSON, even though they're public JSON, they're not my dashboards. I didn't design them. They're just somebody much smarter than me did that. But I was just making it accessible, I guess.
Yep. Like sometimes, there can be, as Bob Ross would call it, not a mistake, but a happy little accident, and maybe something that we didn't intend to do ends up producing a really positive result. So I think those things are, that people can be mindful. And also something that Chris already mentioned is that don't be hard on yourself that your first video or piece of content doesn't get 5 million views and goes viral and gets all that kind of stuff. In general, it's what he said, it's about being consistent, showing up, doing it again and again, and then those things will pay off over time.
So Bart, can I
in
add
terms
a
of
comment here?
yes, go for
Sorry,
it.
I think I don't want people to be discouraged by like how much attention they're getting on a particular post. Sometimes if you're presenting a topic that's tough or a problem that's very specific that you've figured out, you may only actually impact 10 or 15 people in the entire planet that are going up to that problem. But the fact that you made that and solved it already for those 10 or 15 people is super important. So I don't know. I take a grain of salt, like the whole social media. I guess it depends on your motivations. If you're trying to get paid on clicks and views, then maybe that's important. But I think it's really important sometimes to solve those tough problems that may glaze some people over with boredom. But there's going to be a handful of folks out there that are just like searching fervently through the internet for this thing that you solved. And so I just encourage people, like, don't shy away from those tough problems and explaining them in detail, I guess.
I think it's a great point, and also understanding that to tackle something unique, you're going to have to dive deep on something that's very specific and quite niche. And let's face it, if you're talking about an Argo to a Flux migration, is it something that's going to have hundreds of millions of views as if it's Cristiano Ronaldo scoring a goal or something like that? Like probably not. Like the very nature of this stuff is that it's not being covered by millions of people all the time. And so, like what Nick said, if you're going for clicks or views or trying to turn a profit off representing a brand, that's one thing. But if you're really passionate about solving a deep technical problem that you faced and that you think is going to be beneficial to others, the payoff for those 15 folks or however many there are out there that benefit from that is very, very meaningful. Which also leads me to my next point. If you like a piece of content or you benefited from it, please tell the person or thank them in some way so they know that that it's had that impact. It's super meaningful when someone does that. So I would recommend everybody else to do that too. Before we wrap it up though, I want to ask both Chris and Nick, in terms of content creators out there who you follow or people whose style that you like, because at the end of the day, everybody has a different style. Chris, is there anyone out there who's been a bit of a role model for you or someone that's helped you in terms of creating the content that you're putting out there?
Oh yeah, I mean, I Tech with Lucy. She's mainly a ex-AWS solutions architect, but I always liked her style of content and the way she delivers it. I also actually got to meet her at that Google conference I went to a year or two ago, and yeah, no, she just does information trying to get people into cloud, and it's kind of like the same thing I wanted to do, but more Kubernetes and cloud-based. So I really like her, and also Misha, who does a lot of Kubernetes home lab type stuff as well.
Very good. Nick, what about you?
I mean, aside from Mr. Bart Farrell, who is just intensely inspiring me day to day.
Throw me under the bus for not mentioning that.
Like just look at this. Like, I want to be like Bart when I grow up. Even though I'm 4 or 5 years older than you, that's fine. No, there's a lot. I mean, listen, I would be remiss if I wouldn't say, and I won't tell him this to his face because that's just not my style. But like, I'd say the GOAT is Kelsey Hightower. It's not even, to me, it's like what he does is just amazing. Like, to me, and I've been following him for a really long time. Everything he touches, his way of like relating to you as a human, technical concept, he's just bar none by far, I think, the best in the industry in that craft. Now, like some folks that I really respect that maybe are not getting as the visibility, there's are you familiar with Fermion, the WASM startup company?
Yep,
Yeah. Okay.
my
So,
pleasure.
oh, Kate is amazing. She's one of their engineers. Is it Gringold? I forgot her last name, but she gave a talk at our Container Day event in Europe, in London, ahead of KubeCon last year, and then in Utah, I think, and they were just outstanding. So like her ability to take really tough technical like concepts and then make them sort of like don't not remove the value, not necessarily make them easy, but make them understandable, I guess, while still like allowing you the ability to retain the information was pretty spot on. So yeah.
Yep, that's great. I
Like
recently, yeah, so
okay,
just,
and here's the other thing. Just more people in front of a CLI, right? I want to see like live demos. I don't want to see like video clips. Just get out there. Like right now, I'm on Wi-Fi on my phone because internet died right in the middle of this thing with Bart. But like just be real, man.
be real, keep it real, be authentic. I think there's a lot to be said for that, and that you keep it real goes wrong. That's another way of age checking. But yeah, no, but I think those are great points. A couple things I want to unpack. You said Kate, I think it's Kate Goldenring from
Yes,
Fermia.
sorry. Yes.
Just in case anybody wants to check out talks that she's done. Yeah, so check out Kate Goldenring. And yes, I do think there's something to be said for doing live demos. You know, things can go wrong, and this is life. And some of the best presentations I've seen have been when demos failed because people own it, and there's honesty and transparency that goes in that. It opens up the possibility for future conversations. To your point about Kelsey Hightower, he is very good at taking complex topics and making them relatable. Another person who I saw recently on stage was Justin Garrison at an event that I was hosting in the Netherlands. He spoke for 45 minutes only with one slide, which was his intro slide, and obviously the only slide he used throughout the whole presentation. And still a very technical talk, talking about his process of getting Kubernetes set up while working at Disney Plus. But anyway, that being said, there are different styles out there for different people, so don't feel like you have to absolutely like, whoever everybody else likes. Thinking about the style that's going to work best for you. And then on the content creation side, I'm a big believer, and I often tell people, like, I don't care what format it is, whether it's just sharing an article that you read and saying what you liked, but building some kind of a presence and being a source of information for other people. Some people really just like to be lurkers. Like I said, that's okay too, but if you come across something that you like, definitely let the person know that you enjoyed it. In terms of next steps, Chris, what kind of content is next for you on your radar? What can we expect from you?
Live demos in the CLI.
Yeah,
Of course.
CLI.
Yeah, no, probably I'm just going to do, I would like to do some actual live stuff. And yeah, setting up how I set up my home lab with Flux, deployed Grafana, and external secrets, just all the bits and pieces that go together to set it up to mirror something that you might end up doing in the real world. I think it's helpful, and because it's constantly, the goalposts are constantly changing with like the API changes and the version changes. The content it's always going to be new because Kubernetes versions change, and yeah, it's nice. Also, there's a lot of, I hate to say it, AI stuff that runs on Kubernetes now, which is pretty cool. So.
Very good. Well, it sounds like a good challenge to take it to the next level. Nick, what can we expect from you?
Poor quality content, if any at all. No. So we've got, KubeCon's coming up. It's in my hometown. So welcome everyone who's going to come to Atlanta. There's Sig Foodie. Like, I've contributed some suggestions to that thing. So if you're interested in like restaurants and stuff, check out that. It's a Git repo. I'll get Bart the link. We have a Container Day event, Colo, happening ahead of KubeCon, which I think is on Monday. Look forward to speaking there and meeting with customers and stuff. And that week should just be fun. Of course, you know what the highlight of that week is for me, don't you there, Guy? What's the highlight of that week, Bart? That's right. So like everything I do in my life is to facilitate more time with my family and playing music. And we've kind of combined these things because I consider Bart as somewhat of extended family. We have an event on, what day is it? Is it Tuesday? I think it's Tuesday. No, I don't know. I don't know what day it is. There's an event called Cube Jam in which a bunch of us kind of sign up and get together and stand on stage and play music to other people who also play music, and then we rotate and we have a good time. It's my favorite part of KubeCon at this point, which is saying something because I've been going to these for years. So
quite some time. Good. Well, I shared the link for Kube Jam. That's on November 12th for folks that are going to be at KubeCon. And we'll be doing these at every KubeCon that we're able to attend. So if you're not able to attend this one in the US, we'll definitely be doing one in the EU next year. And Nick and I should probably think about applying to KubeCon Japan and China so we can also spread the love and mission of Kube Jam there, KubeCon India as well. But we're just about out of time for today. So thanks to both you, Chris and Nick, for joining. The next step in the Flux Explorers program will be to start building your talks. So we'll have more information to share about that next week as we get ready for our online event to see what it is that people have been learning throughout this process, following the content from the Flux docu-series that we did on Cube FM. Thanks so much for joining us today, gentlemen. Really enjoyed hearing from both of you and look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care.